Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. It's Monday for me here in Phuket. Might still be the weekend for some of you. I hope it's been a good one. You've had some time to relax. And been meaning to catch up with everyone for a good few days, but been swamped with work, which is obviously a good thing. So hopefully there's a few people around that might want to pop in, say hi. And I was really just thinking about what the title is really, how truth seekers become flat earthers. You know, when you listen to something like Flat Earth 24/7, I think is the name of the channel on YouTube, that obviously they're talking on Discord. It's a great panel of guys because you know, their whole their whole aim is to get people to think back to what causes you to believe you live on a globe in the first place. Yeah. Hi, Squirrel. Greetings, beautiful souls from across the pond, but under the same sky. Lovely, lovely way of putting it. Yeah, which is true, isn't it? You know, this is the thing, isn't it? You've just got to, well, first of all, you've got to, you know, breaking, I suppose there's a process, right? And part of this is what I'm trying to get across in the book I'm putting together, where we all, if we're flat earthers, we know what process we went through, and if we're truth seekers, then it's because we've been seeking the truth, and because we've dared to ask those uncomfortable questions and get uncomfortable, get out of our comfort zone, and really question why we believe things in the first place. Yeah, and it's only by doing that, only by having that kind of mentality, that you can really start to get there. So, you know, any truth seeker who's really looking into what the truth is, although you might not ever really find an answer to what's the truth, you know, the part of this truth seeking journey is realizing that well, we don't really know that either. Nobody knows the truth. We're all just guessing here, right? And that's, you know, but it's a case of understanding you know, how we believed something. Yeah, Squirrel, critical thinkers unite like iron to magnets. Yeah, I mean, the thumbnail is kind of playing on that whole kind of cult mentality, but a cult of free thinkers, right? So where we're all on the same page, aren't we? Because we know what we've been through. We know what we've had to go through mentally, spiritually, to get to that point where you are a truth seeker. So, sorry, just to kind of finish off what I was saying, I suppose that a truth seeker will ultimately, you know, realize that yeah, the globe was fabricated, and you'll understand how it was done, and then why we were taught it so early on in life, and then you see things how they really are, but you still understand that there's so much we don't know, and we've just spent our lives believing things rather than actually knowing them. So, you know, it's realizing as well that we are taught continually by the culture, by everything. You know, we're taught what to think, not how to think. I mean, we're not necessarily, you know, maybe that's what a lot of the reset was about. Maybe in this time of the Renaissance, we found that freedom where no one was telling you what to think, and we'd mastered how to think, and how to just get in touch with the source again, and celebrate, you know, that creativity that we can do. Hi FPV, good to see you, my man. Dalen, paradox, flat earth will lead you back to God if you are lost. Well, yeah, that is kind of, oh, my audio is very low, sorry. Let me try and fix that. Hang on. Okay, how's that? Oh shit, probably too high now. How's that? Is that better? Better. It's going up in the red for me now, so hopefully that is good. All right. Better. Testing. Yeah. Yeah, good point, Squirrel. It's more a realization than finding the truth. Right, you realize that, okay, yeah, you've got to this point where you realize that it's not the globe and it is flat as we see it, and you know, we're seeing things because of perspective, and you understand that perspective has been converted into this imaginary curve, and it's mental. And sorry, Dallin Paradox, you were saying flat Earth will lead you back to God if you were lost. Yeah. Well, there's certainly, yeah. I mean, there's that. You're right. Obviously, everyone's got kind of their own maybe definition of God or whatever. And of course, when there's a label, you know, that comes with that sometimes. But again, that's because of, you know, the way we're taught to see God or whatever from an early age. But yeah, you're going to that. You are going back to that age of innocence, aren't you? Where all these, where you don't have all these filters, these cultural filters on, right? So yeah, you're much more in touch with the source, with God, with you being God, God being part of you, however you want to perceive it. But it's and of course it's really difficult to grasp. You know, to be an individual, but be part of the source, yeah, and how the source or God can be having these individual experiences. It's very, very challenging, very difficult, yeah. But this is it. It is about challenging. It's about having that. Interestingly, I'm just helping edit a book on neuroplasticity. I can't even say it. I'm editing it. Plasticity. I never tried saying it out loud. Plasticity. Is that right? Plasticity. You know, the whole kind of the idea that the brain, well, apparently it's a scientific fact that, you know, that the brain is creating these neural pathways throughout life. Of course, it's happening a lot when we're young, but it doesn't necessarily stop. Yeah, but then what happens is you know, by your early teens, you've either developed a flexible kind of mindset or a very fixed mindset. Yeah. So, you know, then, you know, by then things can be kind of hardwired, as it were. But this is it, you know, I think there's still, you know, you talk about the brain and you talk about the mind, and sometimes they're spoken about as the same thing, but then they're not really. The brain and the mind are separate, aren't they? You know, understanding flat Earth or whatever is not necessarily a brain function. It is a mind thing, and it is a mindset, because as you get set in your ways. And I think actually a lot of the time, you know, we may be covering up traumas. You know, a lot of the truth-seeking journey is dealing with trauma, right? It's facing your traumas, whether you've got some kind of habit or things, you know, things that you fear, and where do those fears come from? If someone's got arachnophobia, yeah, there's probably a reason somewhere. They've got to get to that root. Why are they afraid of spiders? What happened to them? What did they see or experience when they were younger that causes them to just get away from that? So, you know, when it comes to just allowing yourself to think of things in a different way than convention or than consensus, then obviously there's you can see when you're dealing, there's people that are open, and they have that open mindset, but then you see this other type of person that has a very fixed mindset, and they might ask questions about, you know, flat Earth and how did you get, why do you believe this, why do you believe that, and but they're not ready for the answers because it's already solidified in their mind. They think they're challenging you and they think that you're ignorant of heliocentrism, and they think you're ignorant of why they believe certain things, and they'll go on about, you know, Eratosthenes or whatever, or they'll tell you what down is, and then, but you can't even a lot of the time you can't even get to this point where you can't even get them to agree that it would be a matter of interpretation. It's like, no, there's only one way of interpreting it, and for example, down. There's only one way of interpreting down, and that's towards the center of a spherical Earth. That's it. Or level is perpendicular to the downward vector, or however they want to word it. They're basically trying to word it in a way that rigidly sets what horizontal is, what down is, and it is all related to this preconceived globe idea, isn't it? Yeah. So there is this very, very rigid mindset. And I think, when you see that in people, it's kind of frustrating. You feel kind of, in a way, you feel sorry for them, because it's like they're not, you know, they because they get annoyed. And it's funny, I mean, because the Globers often think they're having fun. They want to poke fun at the flat earther, and they want to say, they just... they want to wind up the flat earther, and if you get pissy, if you get upset, or then they think they've kind of won, they've done what they want. But that's like a child. It's really like we were talking. If David Banner's in, and we were talking about this the other day. David Banner was pointing out, you know, it's like, and it made me think of this as well. It's like a child when you test the boundaries. You really, and if you know an adult gets upset, but there's no real repercussions, then you'll keep on jabbing away until they freak out and they go, "Wah!" But you kind of laugh and giggle knowing that you can run away and they're not really going to hit you with the stick or something like that. So that's kind of how your average Globie sees a flat earther. They see it as entertainment, you know, and it's like, well, yeah, but cockfighting is entertaining for some people. Boxing is entertaining for some people. Train spotting is entertaining for some people, right? Truth seeking is not always entertaining. It's exhilarating because it's a roller coaster ride, but it's not always entertaining. It can be quite traumatic in itself because you're reliving those things. You're going back to really trying to understand why you think the way you do, why you believe these certain things. Why do I react? You know, if you're a truth seeker, you look at that, don't you? You look at, why do I react a certain way? Why did that make me angry? What caused it? And then, okay, it's easy to blame someone else. The last person we ever want to blame is ourselves. And then, you know, part of this truth-seeking journey is realizing that anything we react to is literally up to us. Yeah. So however someone reacts, you know that they actually have a choice. You know, you can't say, he made me do it. Yeah. I find it funny how there are some problems with people making tweets, apparently inciting violence. But it's like, do you remember when the teacher would tell you off, and you'd say, well, she told me to do it. And the teacher would say, well, if she told you to jump off a cliff, would you do it? You know, this is simple stuff that, you know, it's up to you. Anyway, let's have a look through the chat a second. Okay, better now, thanks. I'm glad the audio is okay. Humpy gas in a vacuum. I know it is flat still. I still image in my mind a globe completely. Yeah, of course. It's stuck there, isn't it? Yeah. It's like anything, isn't it? If you say flower or elephant or car, you know, some picture is going to come floating up into your head. I didn't necessarily say a red car or a green car but something would have popped up into your head, some kind of image that you kind of relate to, yeah? And you say the same with Earth. And although there's no there's no shape determined by that word, boop, a globe will no doubt pop into your mind. Yeah? KG Bear, hello from SC. Where's SC? Kyle Solers. Okay, I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. That happens to me all the time. Okay. Nick. Oh, place. Synthesized Nick. It is an old keyboard. Is that the Yamaha one? I can't remember. Yeah, it's the Yamaha. It's a bit buggered. It's not a synthesizer. It's just a keyboard. And I'm not necessarily a great player. It's actually my daughter's. I play a bit, but my daughter's she's the music teacher. I play harmonica and trumpet and a few other things, but nothing proficient on the piano. Sorry to disappoint you there. Carl Solers, look up this, the National Blueprint for Biodefense. Hi V Thomas, good to see you. Thanks for popping by. Massimo, hello. All right. RGZ, Mac. It's hard telling the truth to. Yeah. Again, it's it. We're not. This is it. You know, they want to come up. You know, explain this. Why is this? Why is that? And I mean, a good thing I've noticed with, for example, these guys on the 24/7 is, you know, someone will say, well, explain how the sun works on a flat Earth, and you get silence, and because. Really, the whole name of the game is to, first of all, explain why you think that sunrises and sunset are solely attributed to you being on a globe. And then it's like, well, okay, how did you get to that globe knowledge in the first place? And so, yeah. And when you really, this is it. It's a real. It's like pulling teeth, isn't it? It's a real process of really kind of pull. And so yeah, people will spend hours and hours trying to, defend and resist. Whereas the moment you've got someone that's a bit open-minded, you say, well, how do you know it's a globe? And they'll go, oh, well, okay. I mean, I know I was shown pictures in school and the teacher told me, but she never verified it for herself. And okay, well, yeah, then you say, well, okay, I don't know it's a globe. I just believed it because that's all I was told. And that would be a perfectly honest answer that you could give in 5 minutes if you were being intellectually honest. But, you know, you can see people spending 3-4 hours trying to get someone else to, you know, to that point where they're actually examining for themselves why they believe something in the first place. What's that? RGC Mac. The interview with Flat Earth Dave and the physics professor I saw yesterday was great. One of the. Oh really? Okay. I saw one fairly recently, which was very good. So kudos there. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Carl Solers, neuroplasticity. You were struggling to say. Yeah, I can say it when it's written in front of me. Yeah, neuroplasticity. Plasticity. You were struggling saying it, so I posted the pronunciation, and I was saying that happens to me all the time. Oh, I see. Right up here. Okay, sorry. Right, yeah. Placid. Okay. Plasticity. I'm with you now, Kyle. Okay. Thank you for giving it a go there. Yeah. But again, I was looking into this word because of the book I'm editing, and it's funny because, as I was saying, you know, the word mind and brain gets interwoven, and so I'm kind of pointing out to the author that, well, actually, you know, okay, we can talk about neurons in the brain. You know, that's what the neuroplasticity is, right? The new neurons, new pathways are being created when you learn something, and this goes on throughout your life. So, you know, it is possible to learn new stuff, but then it's the mind, it's the mind that would stop the brain doing that, right? So this is the thing. I mean, this is the one major thing about truth seeking, right? Is you really have to differentiate between the mind and the brain. And then the behaviors and things like that we adopt and we are conditioned to have as we as we grow up. Coles Spring. The final version experiment ended FE. What are you on about? No idea what you're trying to say, Coles. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the usual trait, isn't it? Because when for them to laugh, as Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. But this isn't about winning. Again, this is it. They want to. It's always a competition, and rather than talking about the subject and trying to work out, what's reality or what's a model, what's a belief, it becomes a contest. They think it's a contest of wits. And it's not a contest of wits, is it? Because, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. People, have you got a degree? Have you got the papers? Have you been to university? Have you done your peer reviews? It's just like, well, coming up with that stuff is irrelevant. Yeah, because it doesn't matter how intelligent or smart someone is. And I suppose that, one of these big things is the way that the globe has been passed off as science. And so there's no discernment being used there between science and so, but you use technology. We're talking on the internet. Well, the globe isn't required for us to have the internet and webcams and microphones, is it? Yeah, the globe isn't required for anything really. For aviation, it's not even required. Yeah, and this is quite good because what has been revealed over time by these globe earthers continually defending their belief with not an ounce, not an iota of actual measurable scientific, but there's no science. The more you ask them to prove it, the more it becomes obvious that it's a religious doctrine. There's no science in it, because they have to go to this, well, down is towards the center of the spherical earth. Again, where did the spherical earth come from? And it's funny listening to Wolfie 2060 or whatever his name is, Wolfie 60 now. Well, I can't remember. When he was talking to Duffy, and then he's going to talk about flight plans, but the only thing that he's got is that he's traveling from one point on a map to another, following a coordinate system. So it's literally just that. It's the fact that there are longitude and latitudes that make people assume it's excuse me, it's a globe. That's it. It didn't come from someone discovering curvature. It didn't come from anyone saying, oh look, it's curved at the horizon, or seeing what they assume is a dip in front of them and then verifying that dip from a side on whatever. Yeah. Coles Spring, what are you talking about? The final experiment ended FE. So many FEers threw in the towel. You all helped kind of keep it going. There's YouTube and all the other people trying to suppress it. And Duffy comes along and makes a big deal about it, and actually proved that you're all coming from a point of presupposition. You refuse to actually do any science. You all went along with a false dichotomy. Yeah. And you just proved that you have this very rigid mindset, and all you could do was look at the sun and point at the sun and say, that proves that we live on a globe. Oh dear. So actually, it was an excellent example of just how idiotic the whole thing is, and how like the Ptolemy model for the cosmological model. Again, what the heliocentrists or the globe believers don't understand is that the globe is an essential component of the heliocentric cosmological model, right? The cosmological model came first, and then how do we put the Earth in this cosmological model? If we're assuming that the sun is at the center and the planets are moving around the sun, well, if we assume that the Earth is going around the sun like the other planets, then it has to be a globe in order for us to create day and night. Yeah. So it's a very simple understanding that it started with a presupposed model, and the globe was built from that. Yeah. And when people say the higher up you get in a building, the further you can see is proof that we're on a globe, is laughable. Yeah, because it's just an optical effect of perspective that happens. Actually, it's exactly what we expect to see across a level surface. That's exactly how it works across a level surface. Yeah? And you can test this on any scale. Yeah, I was having a kind of David, what's his name? Dave McKeegan with the dog and everything, who went to the, this is a guy who went on and did the final experiment thing, yeah? And the guy's coming out with absolute shite, bullshit claims in videos saying, oh, I can't see something in the distance. Oh, he was taking a photograph that was one of these world record photographs, and you could see 100 and something miles, and you could see these mountains. I think it was Mallorca or whatever they were looking at, yeah? And he's saying, well, look, there's this bit I can't see in the distance 100 miles away. That means that there must be curvature. Yeah. Oh. But it's so simple when you realise that actually what's happened is these globies have never taken perspective into account, yeah? So, for example, I'm just going to draw a little picture here, yeah? Yeah? Like, there's a guy looking at some mountains. Well, okay, the mountains are a lot bigger than him. Obviously, actually, the guy that's, the guy would be tiny, right? Okay. Yeah, we've got a tiny guy in the mountains, yeah? But of course, for this guy, the mountains appear tiny. Smaller than him. Yeah? So they forget that. They forget that angular size is an aspect of perspective. Yeah, so they do these orthographic illustrations and do their angles and everything, but they're not taking perspective into account. They're converting what we see in our eyes into this orthographic view, but they are totally ignoring perspective that makes things appear smaller over distance. Yeah. So basically, there's something I can't see, which means it must be something. Yeah. And I was just saying to Dave, you can test this yourself. Go and test it. Yeah. But this is a ridiculous. So the final experiment, Coles, didn't do any. It actually just showed you up to be a bunch of idiots who refused to do any actual science. Yeah. Because and of course you still got these guys who went on the final experiment. They thought that was going to be it. We're just going to point at the sun and we're going to show them there's a 24-hour sun. Everyone's going to believe in a globe now. Well, no, because that was your whole premise was that, because of sun, globe. Day and night, globe. Time zones, globe. Curvature, nothing to do with it. Yeah? And then so after doing the so-called final experiment, Dave McKeegan's making these idiotic videos, taking a photograph, just not even his own photograph, and making claims about what he can or cannot see 100 miles away from this photograph. Yeah? And I said, Dave, look at the horizon, Yeah, because this was a photograph taken from a fairly high elevation. I said, look at the horizon. Where's the horizon? It's there, of course, at eye level. Yeah, and the funny thing is that there was a tower in the foreground. So yes, the observer was higher than the tower in the foreground, but of course the tower was much higher than the sea level. This photograph was taken from a high vantage point, right? So if you think about it, if your globe Earth is based, or if you believe horizons prove the globe, I mean, people will say you wouldn't get a horizon on a flat Earth. And it's just like, are you insane? Look, I mean, there's just someone who refuses to look at reality. Or you say, look down a corridor, an endless corridor. You'll see a horizon. Yeah. Yeah, Kylo Solas, it was completely fake. Dave Hinkle, that was the final desperate gasp to save the fancy globe. It certainly was. FPV Angel, I can't wait for the Globers to explain how the globe reversed direction to make the sun return. Yeah, I was just going to say something about the Ptolemy model, right? I mean, so nothing's changed. Nothing changes about what we see in the sky. But however it was hundreds or thousands of years ago, we had the Ptolemaic model, right? Where it's basically a geocentric Earth. Whether they considered it a globe or not, I honestly don't know. But you basically have the stars doing these beautiful patterns that we see in nature. We see these patterns in petals. We see them in all these wonderful things, living things, right? These kind of Fibonacci spirals and what have you. These are happening in the sky and they're happening on the Earth. It's a common occurrence, yeah? But the Copernican model is like, let's simplify this. Let's just turn it into circles. And they actually realize that, well, we can't really get away with circles. They kind of have to be ellipses. Oh, David Banner's in. Hi. Good to see you, man. Oh, I'm just going back through. Who else have I missed? Lev Kung Fu, hi. Zeus, Scott. Good to see you, my man. Sorry. FPV, yeah, the fake flat earthers revealed themselves. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Well, this is it, very, very few people are using flat earth as a vehicle for, making money. Yeah. Like anything, if it's a trend, there are opportunities, right? And if you're, time is money. If you're putting work in, then there's some money. Yeah. For most of us, that was okay. That was cool. If we're looking into flat Earth and it's popular and we're doing something about it and it happens to be popular and it happens to be gaining traction and what have you. But obviously that's been snipped in the bud. So yeah, it's like, well, why aren't you allowed to talk about certain things? Why is that? Yeah. Just like you're not allowed to talk about certain things that are causing countries to fall into steep decline. Yeah. You might as well point at crabs. Yeah. Again, you just ask where the curvature is, and they cannot provide it. What's that, FPV? Ptolemy also used epicycles, Nick. They explain the sun's motion. Yeah, right. Okay, this is it. And that's what you've got in your model as well, isn't it, FPV? Yeah. Again, we were kind of, obviously, the idea that the sun just does a circle was one that was kind of a natural progression from the Earth rotating from a stationary sun. But yeah, this is it. That works, doesn't it? You've got these different seasons. That really does work. But of course, it's very, very difficult to imagine that something would do that, isn't it? Because I suppose we've been taught that the circular motions we've been presented with are kind of, they don't require intelligence, right? They don't require that kind of what's the word? Creative. There's no creative element necessary. They say it's the most natural form. Like, okay, you blow a bubble, and you could argue that there's nothing esoteric, or there's no intelligence necessarily behind a bubble being created. It just so happens to be that way. It's the most common form something will shape with, shape that. But even that, when you think about bubbles, it's like, why is a bubble the shape it is? Why is a bubble? Or you could think of it either as a water. If you're water in a weightless environment, like when they show you on the space station. Why is the water a globule? Why is it a bubble? Well, okay, if you're falling, you still have air pressure. So, the bubble there, the bubble of water, is basically being formed by air pressure. The air pressure on the outside is keeping it together. Air pressure is immensely strong. Yeah, we know this when you create a vacuum. You've seen that thing where you can get these two kind of things together, like if you get two kind of plunger-like things together, toilet plungers, yeah? And you can create this, and then if you create a vacuum in there, there's some guy did it years ago, yeah, but they used, I think he used metal, but these two metal things stick together, like a sphere, but it's two hemispheres stuck together, and then the air is drawn out, so it's a vacuum. And two horses can't pull these things apart, yeah? Because what? The vacuum isn't holding them in. It's the air pressure squeezing them together. Yeah? So we've got this. It's funny because we talk about air. We know that there is, like, how many pounds per square inch of air pressure on us? There's a lot. Of course, we don't feel it because we're just used to it, yeah? But that's a huge factor in say, gravity, yeah? GeoShifter, hello. Water has high surface tension. That's true, yeah, of course. Yeah, it has, so it's not, yeah. But I think, the fact that it's going to be a globule is probably a lot to do with the air pressure around it as well, right? Carl Sollers. Look, a news clip about new viruses on the ISS and China's space station. They say are likely to come to Earth. And look up National Blueprint for Biodefense. Yeah, I think it's that's a good thing about being a flat earther as well, is you're immune to all that bullshit. Yeah, and I think a lot of the war rhetoric at the moment don't pay any heed to this stuff. All they want to do is sell weapons. Yeah, and they've got people worried about this. Don't get wrapped up in this idea that we're entering World War III. The fear mongering is rife at the moment. Yeah. Just because we could see a few pictures of a few aircraft being blown up, apparently by drones. Don't fall for it. Yeah. They're just playing their little games. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. So, yeah. So this whole thing, how a truth seeker becomes a flat earther is because you end up at least acknowledging that, well, all I can tell about the world around me, and all that anyone can tell me, even those people that are pretending to know we live on a globe, all they can tell me is how to perceive the flatness as a globe. Yeah. So, but it does take a while. You hear people come at this, and so really that's what it's all about. You're not don't want, you're not trying to convert people into believing something else. You're not trying to say, here's my model, believe me. I mean, sometimes it can help to, at least, well, you could debate that, couldn't you? Because if it's actually quite a challenging process to get to that point where you have no preconceived ideas. You're not putting yourself in a cosmological model, yeah. And again, it's really, if you're on a truth-seeking journey, regardless of whether you're talking about the shape of the Earth or whatever, I just find that it's a great one. The shape of the Earth is a great one because it's very, very clear that you can understand how you were deceived if you are prepared to look at it openly. And for example, if one of you mentioned that if you talk to physics professors that are open-minded and they don't have an agenda, then they will probably admit, well, most of their job is basically a physicist's job is creating mathematical models. Some people are employed to think about what might have happened a millisecond after the Big Bang, if there ever was one. Again, they got this presupposition that there was one. Yeah, so it's insane because they're really spending their days contemplating something that they have no idea is true or not, but they are treated as revered scholars. Well, they probably spent a fortune getting their degrees and masters and whatever in the first place. Yeah. That's right. Kylo Sellers. But I think, we say they. I mean, we're all so addicted to it as well, aren't we? It sells. People do it instinctively. They go for the fear factor. Good point, FPV. Maths has no boundaries. Reality has. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. But I suppose we still don't exactly know the boundaries, right? And then, of course, the big question is what's beyond the boundary, and that becomes, I remember dealing with that question when I was a kid. You start to ask, where are we? And you're, and then, well, you get told one day the sun's going to blow up and swallow up the Earth, and then you're taught about the solar system, and you're like, well, okay, what's beyond that? And well, it's kind of infinite, really. And even though you might understand that means it's really, really big and you could never get to the end of it, you still have this desire, this itch that, well, there's got to be an end, there's got to be a separation point somewhere, but then you're still stuck with the same conundrum. What's after that? So I remember that occupying my mind when I was a kid, and at some point realizing and having to accept that I can't reconcile that in any way, whether you say it's infinite or whether you say there's a limit, a boundary. There's always going to be the question, what's beyond the boundary? Yeah. So, hi, jolly man. Usually so-called intelligent people claim spherical cosine laws and spherical trig can be used to calculate the proportions of an ellipsoid. I could get on my blackboard here, my whiteboard, and I've got a line up here. I don't want to move the camera. I wonder if I can... I don't know if you can see that well or not, but here's a cross section of a distance travelled on the Earth. Right? You could be in a plane or something. All right. And you're going along this, what would it be? A longitude line where you've got these latitude points. Yeah. whatever you're doing. Doesn't matter which way you're going. Okay, we got up to 90 there. 0 to 90, equator to a pole, whatever, right? Yeah. So, but that, I mean, Wolfie, for example, has already told us that you can't measure any curvature. You fly straight and level, and you ask them to define the difference between their curved level and their horizontal level, and they basically end up having to say, well, it's the same. Yeah, or just some whatever. It's just they just insist that well, nothing changes. Well, this is the thing. If nothing changes, then you're flying above a level Earth. That's it. This. When there is no change, when there is no whatever, there's no change in pitch. There's no change in the way you're pointing, or the direction of down. When there's no change in the direction of down, that means that you are flying above a level Earth. Yeah, and your direction of down is constant. Oh yeah, is that gonna, yeah? That's your down. That's your down all the way along. Yeah. If there's no change in the direction of down, and horizontal is always horizontal, guess what? Flat Earth. Yeah. So that no one can provide anything whatsoever. No measurements, no nothing. Nothing. To prove this concept that, well, actually what I'm doing is going around this curve, and my direction of down is changing as I go around this curve. That's just conceptual. Reality is this: horizontal, down is universal. Yeah. So they've literally taken that, and just because you're going along these latitude points, following some coordinates, and that is mapped occasionally as a globe with an equator and poles, which, this is it, when it's like, well, okay, we can all imagine it, but has anyone gone all the way around? Whether it is, I mean, I must admit, when I was talking to FPV Angel about this, that was a really good point that you made, that of course when we were, a lot of us were introduced to flat Earth, we kind of reconcile that, okay, I can go around east to west, west to east, whatever, and I can go back on myself, but no one's ever gone pole to pole, north to south, south to north, whatever. Yeah. But actually, FPV's got a good point. Has anyone ever actually gone all the way around east to west and west to east? Yeah. And gone back to that same point, following that same line in a straight line? Has anyone actually ever done that? Probably not. Don't think they have. Yeah. This is it. The world that we are allowed to explore is actually quite limited. So you're right. I mean, there are boundaries in our reality, whether it just gets too cold to go beyond or what. We don't know. No one's claiming to know, are they? Yeah. Oh, Zeus Scott, you'd like us to do another discussion? Yeah, I'd be open for that. Yeah, and we can get in touch and do that again. That'd be cool. Yeah. Brian, hi. It's impossible on a level plane. What's impossible on a level plane? Oh, the east to west thing, west to east. Yeah, I mean, this is it. You kind of, you pointed that out, and it's like, okay. So yeah, it was like, in a way, that was new information or a new way of thinking about it, and I enjoy that. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. That can work. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So this is it. I mean, I must admit, it took me a while to understand. Oh, David Banner, thank you very much, my man. Thank you. £5 from David Banner. Yep. They have hijacked our senses, Nick. Great job as usual. Oh, thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It's yeah. our senses, and yeah, and of course we're told not to trust our senses. And if there's one thing I would teach my kids, it's like, trust your instincts. If I look back on my life, and you look back at like the mistakes you made, it's like sometimes they were rash decisions. They were done maybe you might have done something out of spite or pride or whatever, or just to rebel. Or it could be for any reason, right? You're just not thinking, but you're not in touch with your instinct, your real instinct, and I think it's really, as you grow older, hopefully you would kind of develop that instinct. So yeah, one thing I tell my kids is go with your instincts, yeah. And one of my sons pointed out to me today. We're talking about people that make a living. I mean, he knows more about the kind of the famous YouTubers and stuff, and we were talking. I think we were talking about Speed, that guy Speed, and he was telling me how he got going and how his energy was like. He was doing some good stuff and he was doing it on his own to start with, and because I was explaining to him that you don't get that famous without some help. But basically the kind of conversation was revolving, or one of the points he made in the conversation was, well, fair shout to him. He's making money and he's out of something he loved doing. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's absolutely cool. Yeah. And why not? This is it. Look at, we know that the whole school system is designed to, again, tell us what to think. What to think about the bloody Russians or the, or whoever. Yeah. Not how to think. Yeah. And again, this, where does this lack of, it's fun. Surely it's not everybody, but a lot of people that have been brought up with the internet. How long have we had search engines for? Is it 20 years now? So you might be dealing with kids. If you're dealing with someone that's like 30 years old, so they might have started using the internet when they were young, and by 10 years old, they're getting all their information by typing into Google. And so Google becomes their god. It becomes their guru. I want to find something out, ask Google. Yeah. And so that's as far as their truth seeking goes. And because they think that Google is going to give them an unbiased answer, where all it's doing is just regurgitating what's been pushed to the top of the search engines, and we all know that you can pay for that, or it just consensus picks it up. Yeah. It's just it's not, Google's not necessarily intelligent in that way. It's just a database thing. It's just it has to reference things so that it can draw that information. If it's not referenced in Google, it's not going to draw it out. Yeah. And if people don't want things to be easily accessible, they'll make sure that they're not so accessible. Yeah. So the art of thinking for oneself and learning how to think rather than what to think it's a journey. It's like climbing the mountain to the temple at the top, so you can be alone without the distractions. Yeah. But we. This life is short, man. Yeah, it's short. It's bloody short. It's like sometimes you look at it and it's like things happened a long time ago, but it's still really short. Yeah, all of a sudden you're in your 40s, your 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. Yeah, and you're like, shit, I'm still alive. Yeah. So, if you're still struggling with a fixed mindset, not allowing the neuroplasticity, I said it right, to continue, then yeah, And it's funny. I was prior to this, the book I'm editing now. I was editing one about retirement, and yeah, some of it's financial advice and things like that, But ultimately, it's also saying, hey, if you've been in the 9 to 5 doing the grind, and it's actually time to, it's you've got to really kind of embrace this new situation that you're going to find and see it as, even at like 65, you can see your next few years. You could live for another 20 years or more, and see that as some kind of new adventure. Yes, it's true, David. It does. Yeah, it's like, oh shit, is it already the weekend? Is it already yeah? Whew. Yeah. That's, I suppose it happens to everyone, but isn't it interesting because, like, for a child, they're taking so much in, right? They and then over time, we familiarize ourselves with these things. Yeah, you but as a child, you're learning. Everything is a learning experience, right? And yeah. But it's really. I was listening to this guy talking about trauma and the way, for example, like discerning between like cross dressers and then the kind of more perverted aspect of the whole trans thing. It's like some guys just want to dress like a woman, maybe have some long hair, and that's about it. But then you've got this thing where it becomes sexual. Yeah, that's the thing with the whole LGBT thing. Yeah, it's more about accept my perversions. Yeah, because it's like it's all on display, and it's kind of whether they want to put like if they want to go to the point of actually having female parts and things like that, this is usually down to some trauma that they haven't dealt with. Yeah, so yeah, if you think about the stories of like some of these people in high up positions, very successful people have often, they are successful because they've had some kind of trauma, yeah, where they've spent their, something happened when they were a kid, and they've spent their life trying to prove that person wrong, yeah. Maybe it was someone who, a mother or father or someone, whoever, kind of made them feel really bad, and there's some trauma there, and they've spent their whole life trying to overcome that trauma, yeah. And exhibitionists, yes, Zeus Scott, yeah, this is it, yeah. That's right, David. It is satanic because it's like, yeah, it's yeah. It's not about being prudish either, is it? It's just like, yeah, because it goes. It is trying to be. It's all of those, isn't it? It's just trying to be really exhibitionists and look at me so yeah. There's this kind of, and it's weird. I mean, basically, I suppose what the guy was listening to. I can't remember the interview. I wish I could. But the guy he'd spent years specializing in this particular thing, and there's like, yeah, there's a distinct difference. You've got these exhibitionists, these people that really want to put on this show, and it's very sexually orientated. Those are the ones that are dealing with trauma, yeah, or the ones that can only get off in a certain way, yeah. The one thing that he mentioned was that he was talking about this guy that could only get off if his partner would put him in this kind of bag and then seal him up in a vacuum, yeah. How whatever, and this would get him off and they found out it was because of the traumatic event that he had when he was a kid, was coming home and seeing his mother dead, but her head was in the oven, so I suppose she'd gassed herself, yeah. So there's this kind of the whole it was somehow they were connected, right? This suffocation, this kind of thing. But so this trauma turned into a sexual thing, yeah. So this is how weird this shit gets, man. Yeah. So you can imagine a lot of very successful people, a lot of people that have, when if someone's very single-minded about something, it's often because they're blocking out a lot of other stuff. The only way to block out the stuff and not deal with things is to put a narrow focus on something. Yeah. That's right, V. Thomas. Flatties are not allowed to trust their senses. Yeah. And again, it would be great. It would be great to talk to these globers. But they've created their own barrier. Yeah. They claim to, you look at someone like whoever it is, whether it's what's his face? You know the guys, the usual suspects. Yeah. These globers, these. Not only globers, but anti-flat earthers, yeah? And they spent the last decade making videos by just taking the piss. They haven't even gotten to that stage where they're even thinking about what they're saying or why they're doing it. Or they're only really thinking, of the money that they can make, yeah? The popularity of the subject. Why is it a popular subject? Because it does get you thinking. It does get people emotional. So why do people get emotional? Because they're attached. They have an identity crisis with it. Yeah. So, as I was saying, a pilot flies straight and level. There is nothing that they can produce physically, measurably, empirically, tangibly, that demonstrates that it's any different. But you just got to believe their version of down. That's right, FPV. They haven't even evaluated their evidence, yeah? And this is it. That is the difference between the truth seeker. Well, that's how a truth seeker becomes a flat earther. Yeah? Because if you are, if you are a truth seeker, you will realize at some point that, the globe is nonsense. It's just a cosmological model. Earth is flat, and you might just leave it there. And I think for example, you look at and you do hear it if you're listening. It's quite good because if you tune into some of these truth programs, interviews. Richard Vobes, for example. Richard Vobes. He's been there. He had his awakening, and he's been very open about it. Yeah. I was a bit disappointed with the flat earther that he had on, but it was someone that probably badgered him. Yeah. But he's there, but he's not going to spend his life focus. His focus is he wants to develop farming. He wants to kind of build these communities, and then and the same goes for what's his face? The South African guy who's doing the Ubuntu communities. Yeah? He's a flat earther too, but I mean they just it's like they realise that that's it, but they're not going to dedicate the rest of their life to that. But the important thing is they've realised is that we are the creators. We are going to create a future that doesn't depend on what people have taught us or conditioned us to do or behave like. Yeah, we're going to do it our way. We're going to follow our instincts, and we're going to follow what we feel is. Michael Tellinger, thank you, GeoShifter. Yeah, Michael Tellinger. Yes, you're right. Yeah, and he went off, and he was talking about the Africans. I mean, having these gold mines and things like that, and whatever. Okay, he went down a few rabbit holes, and you can kind of yeah, but he eventually got to flat Earth eventually, didn't he? But now he's refocused. He's he's doing his tours, and it's fantastic because these people have, it's like you just put your faith in the universe. You really do have to just let go. Put your faith, because there's a path for you. Yeah. Just from personal speaking, I've got into recently I've just got into more and more book editing, yeah, and I was kind of envisaging it. It was something I wanted to manifest in a way, just helping people edit their books, because a lot more people are publishing books these days, and yes, they're using AI to do it. And my kind of job is to kind of humanize the AI. But so I basically end up rewriting these books basically. But what was the bloody? Sorry, I didn't want to really talk about myself. But no, it was out of the blue came this one opportunity, and I did it, and it was, she was really happy with it, and then gave me 2 more books to do, and then recommended other people. So now I'm kind of overwhelmed with work because of one job that was kind of, yeah, I did it cheap, but I put my heart and soul into it, yeah, and it was fun. It was good, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy doing it. It kind of seems to be my job. I write, I edit. You know, I've been doing it for years, but you know, there was a time when you're writing and editing for the machine, and it's like I'm thinking no, and I'm not doing this. I'm not. If I'm going to write, if I'm going to put my energy and my thought into writing, I want it to mean something to people, not just to create enough words to feed a bloody machine, yeah. And so yeah, there was a conscious decision to go that way. And okay, there's always this time where it's you know, you got to put either way. You got to put the work in. You got to put effort in. You might be focusing your efforts on one particular direction, you know, at least taking care of things in a certain way, and you might be saying, okay, I'll try this and that. You're working towards it, but then as long as that work's going out there, it will come in. Thanks, Scotty. If you fell out of a window, you'd land on your. Well, but man, you know, you look back. We're all probably old, getting on in age, right? Us old codgers here. We're probably all in our 40s, 50s, 60s around here, right? You know, if you look back, if you got this far, you think, fucking hell, man, that was stupid. How the hell did I survive that? How did I not end up, you know, yeah? Sometimes you just know, you just realize that there's stuff going on around you that makes things happen, right? Yeah. And it's like, yeah. It's magical. It really is magical, and that's what's been taken away with it. You know, when the globe and the whole Big Bang thing, it is just it's the whole thing is very evolutionist, non-spiritual. It's a physical thing that just happened for physical reasons, no other reason. And then somehow, by chance, you know, life started to develop for no reason. And then that life eventually gained some intelligence, yeah? That's completely wrong. That's just you know, we're taught that that's this linear way of thinking. It's very fixed, yeah? But all you got to do is look at reality. It's like things don't manifest until there's a thought, yeah? And so where do the thoughts come from? Did they come from something physical? Do they come from your brain? Or somewhere else? Yeah. Again, this is why you can eventually get this. You get the picture that we are a piece of the source, but we're separate, but not. You know, we're a unique experience going on, and it all threads back, and we're connected to the, you know, to the grass outside and all that as well. Yeah. And maybe even the stars. Maybe the stars do have special meaning for us in that sense. Sorry, I'm ignoring the chat as I'm ranting. Oh, sorry. Let me just go back through the chats. Geoshift, a good point. Not only trauma, chemicals as well. Yes, true. The pineal gland shot. Yeah, all these things. Well, of course, the thing is, you know, you look back and you realise that, okay, if we were eating stuff out of a tin can and processed foods, you know, like, and all this stuff when we were younger, I mean, maybe at the time, maybe our parents couldn't really afford that. They didn't have many options, right? I mean, maybe kind of pre-war or during the, actually back in the maybe what the 40s, 50s, maybe. I should imagine. I think most people were probably living a very healthy lifestyle. Lots of fruit and veg, allotments. People were just growing their own food. It was just, you know, there was maybe only one person needed to work. Yeah, it was all hunky dory. Yeah, there was innovation, and then what happened? It's just got crazy, just got crazy. Yeah, and of course, we get carried away with the idea that we can maybe put all our nutrients into a pill or something like that. Our own cleverness. Yeah, again we get it's a symptom of our own cleverness, isn't it? And aren't we smart to be able to do this? Look at what we can do. Yeah, we can make spam, and we can make dehydrated ice cream, and we can make apples last forever, and we can that's why I think Richard Vobes is doing a great job, because he's really, this is it. For example, the farmers are just they're victims. Yeah, they've been, for many years now, been kind of doing it on a mass production scale. But when did that come about? As I was saying, maybe in the 40s, 50s, it was much smaller. You had, everyone was working on the farm. You might go and pick potatoes, and there was more of a close relationship between farms and the rest of the community, right? Yeah, but then, well, I suppose, when did the Industrial Revolution come along? That was actually around when was that? 1700s, was it? 1800s? I can't remember. Late 1700s, I think. Yeah. Of course, that, but it wasn't overnight, right? Was it? Obviously, it's natural to have machines help us out. And it's become to the point where AI is helping us out. And actually, we've seen throughout time that the more help we get doing things, the more disconnected we become from reality. Yeah. So yeah, it goes back to your Gen whatever, your 30 something, thinking that I just got to look it up on Google and I've got my knowledge. Sorry, I'll definitely go back through the chat now. Right, I'm as far as V. Thomas, but flatties are not allowed to trust their senses. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they point at the sky. Lumpy gas in a vacuum. Hello. Oh, FBV, you're talking about the flat Earth guy. Yeah, that guy was embarrassing. Nearly made Vobes fall asleep. Just echoed. Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? Because obviously, Richard Vobes had got to that point. It's like, well, okay, but he'd also got to the point what, you can see that, for example, Vobes just, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm cool with that, but I'm just going to focus on something else. Zeus Scott, if you, okay, oh, I'm back there. Zeus Scott, you're retired now. Okay, nice one, Zeus Scott. Zeus got 80 cigarettes for £1 when I started. Really? 80 cigarettes for a quid. 80? They do packs of 80, or is you just like several packs of 20? Yeah, Brian A. Metz. Automation and chemicals castration. Yeah, FPV Angel. The revolution was masking the technological revolution too. Yeah? Okay. Oh, I think I got to the bottom of that, yeah. Wars. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good, it's fun. Oh, right, 4 packs of 20s. Right. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I said before, I'd love to talk to these guys. But I think they won't. This is it. You get a lot of bravado from these people, these anti-flat earthers. But I bet your bottom dollar I could invite I have several times invited them to come and have a chat. They can get hold of me by email, and we could set up a chat, yeah, and we could talk about it. But of course, this is the thing. Rather than arguing about things like refraction and this and that and blah blah blah, it would be like, let's get to the root of where your belief comes from. And these guys won't go there. They will not go there. They won't even let you get to the point where you're allowed to question that. So it is this defense shield that goes up. The only mystery to me at this time is whether they do it consciously or subconsciously. Hi, Rethink. Uncle Flat Earthers are just as bad. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a shame because I think I was saying earlier, you don't want to sell them another model. You don't want to convince them that they have to believe someone else. It's just like, no, discard the beliefs. Take that shell, take that framework away. We just want you to be free, to see Earth and life on it as we see and experience it, which is a wonderful thing where we celebrate the diversity, but not to the extent that we have to put up with people's bizarre, sexual orientations and force it on us. But let's deal with the trauma. Surely, in some respects, you could say that life is kind of, maybe there's this phase where you're going to go through trauma. Yeah, you are going to experience suffering. You are going to experience illness. Yeah, you're going to experience pain. And you've got to go through it, and you've got to reflect on it, and then you're going to feel bad about it, or you're going to feel good about it, or you're going to feel neutral about it. And so maybe that's the whole point, is to have the trauma and come through it. It's a learning experience, yeah? People talk about trauma in animals, and they shake it off, yeah? Like if an animal, like let's say a deer, has escaped from the grasp of a crocodile or something, once it's free, it will have a little shake, or a big shake maybe, and then carry on. And it's like, animals deal with the trauma there and then. Obviously, if it's for example, a dog that's been close to humans and there's been persistent trauma, then that makes it even worse. It's just, it's going to be more ingrained, yeah. But for an animal in the wild, most of the time it's kind of living off its senses, and yeah, it's aware that it could get attacked at any moment. And I think we've lost that as well. We've lost that ability to perceive danger, or to we have that false sense of security. Bazira, have you seen the book What is Earth by Abd Aziz al-Nazari? It's an Islamic perspective on flat Earth. Oh, from the Quran and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. The Quran is 100% flat Earth revelation. Okay. I haven't, but thank you for pointing that out, Bazira. Yeah. Of course, this is the thing, isn't it? One thing about flat Earth is that yes, there's scripture in various forms for various religions that would indicate it, or at least not say that the Earth is a globe, but we're talking about a realm where all sorts of shit happens, and karma and this and that, yeah. But the great thing about flat Earth is that we are literally talking about reality, And there's no getting away from the fact that reality is an intelligently designed environment or realm, and we are experiencing it in a fantastical way. Yeah. I'm kind of in the process of putting a video together about, when you think about vision. This is a thing that I found with talking to someone like, or trying to talk to someone like, Dave McKeegan on his video. There he is jumping to making assumptions about curvature from a photograph, and because of what he can't see. But you're just trying to explain to him, look, you just look at the horizon. The perspective is showing you that the globe is not. Horizons are nothing to do with being on a globe. Yeah. But if you, the thing is vision. The way vision works, we see light in the electromagnetic spectrum, right? And that's the thing, animals see different colours to us as well. They maybe see more or less, or just different, yeah? So, all we're ever actually seeing is colour. Yeah, if something's got no colour, we don't see it. Yeah? So, but that's the thing. You ask them to think about the fact that our eyes are convex lenses, and according to the way the eyes allegedly work, we all know the diagrams where the light comes into the eye and then it converges. It converges in the eye, yeah, and we get this picture, and it's supposedly a mirror. It's an upside down image, but mathematically you can describe that as well. You can talk about focal points, and you can say, well, actually, based on this, the eye goes out at a wide angle, but then at the same time, so you're seeing widthways, which is going vertically as well. Yeah, you're seeing, it's kind of like a cone, isn't it? You've got this cone of vision which is going outwards, but at the same time, everything is getting smaller and smaller in angular size the further it is away. So you've got these two things happening. For example, I think it's a 35 millimeter lens in a camera is about the same, gives you about the same focal length and as the human eye, or one human eye, right? So apparently we can see, if it was one eye, it would be about 100 and maybe 150 degree width, but that's all round. So you imagine a cone of vision. The degrees that it's going out to make this horizon further in the distance is about 150 degrees. With two eyes, it's about 180. We basically almost got this kind of left to right cone of vision, which is going out, yeah. But again, at the same time, perspective is kicking in, and I think this is it. There's something about the 45 degrees where if you how that works mathematically. If you've got a building and you go away from it, and you've got this 45 degree angle to the top, then that distance there is going to be the same height as the building. But beyond that, and again, this is going to relate to our actual focal point, really. So as long as you're there's a distance that you're away where boop, you'll see it as its kind of size. But of course, everything in our eyes is just tiny compared to its actual size. You're trying to get across this point that what you're seeing in your eyes or through a lens of a camera is not Euclidean geometry. It's not this kind of orthographic view where everything is its equivalent sizes, that where the mountains are bigger than people. It's the opposite. Yeah. So what we see is an illusion. Yeah. It's because we've got the surface and the sky appearing to converge. Yeah. But you can't even get them to recognize that, because and this is what the truth seeking is about. Is okay, I'm seeing the world and I'm making these assumptions, but why is that happening? Or how am I seeing the world? And then it turns out that the way we see the world has nothing to do with us being on a globe whatsoever. Hi, Post. Peripheral vision. Yes, Scotty, thank you. Post says, if people had been able to think for a second, those control planes literally draw up the blueprint of the perspective for you every day. That's very true. Yeah. There's no Coriolis going on either, is there? Yeah. It's so true. It's there. It's there right in front of you. It's like, yeah, it's because, yeah, you're talking about horizons, and it's like, well, can't you see what's apparently happening? And we know, oh gosh, it's just like, well, that's it. Once you get to that point where you can admit the workings of the eye, and this is what the biology books tell us how it works. Yeah. What's that? Another one from Post. It's coming over the curve. Friend of mine explaining a plane which looked as if it was going straight up, failing to realise it's just really high up and coming straight at us. Yeah. You know, that for example, that I remember when Thomas Sheridan chipped in on this, and I was surprised that he was one that, you know, started ranting against flat Earth. He's like, of course it's not flat, and he was actually pointing out that you can see an aircraft go from horizon to horizon, and that means the Earth is a globe. And the guy's an artist, and it's like, oh dear, it's just you know, no one's asking you to again, no one's asking you to take up another belief. It's just like, be open-minded enough to realize that you might have been interpreting it wrong, and actually the way we see it and the way it actually looks is because it is that way. Yeah, and this is it. The glober will dance all around the mulberry bush trying to, that's the thing. That's again a wonderful demonstration of the mindset. Again, you know, TFE pointing at the sun, thinking they were only appealing to their own thought processes, their own people stuck in that mentality. They weren't going to change any flat earthers' minds. Yeah, as we say, that they claim that people have been leaving. You know, it's not. This is it. Again, it's completely the wrong thing to say. To start off with a false dichotomy, and then to say people are leaving flat Earth. Well, there's nothing to leave. We're all stuck here on the Earth until we die. Yeah? There's no leaving flat Earth. It's right here in your face, everywhere you look. Yeah? because they got this bigoted approach. This, you know, they're like, okay, you lot are in this thing over here, but this is it. Flat earthers are truth seekers, and there are truth seekers in all shapes and sizes. And yeah, like some of them, it's like, yeah, they get flat earth, but they got a different focus, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Everyone's got their thing, you know. Rock on Richard Vobes, rock on Michael Tellinger, yeah. Rock on all these other people that are doing stuff, building, you know, doing something, creating a community of free thinkers. Yeah. Seeing a lot of stuff now about, you know, the way magnetic frequencies can work. I think, you know, in many ways we might get to a point where, you know, there are people still doing stuff out there. You know, is there a relationship between free energy and crop circles, for example? Yeah. Are there entities? Are there elements? Is there intelligence really trying to point the way? But we're just being distracted all the time. Yeah. What's that post? Yes, who's Scott? We all live in a yellow submarine. Dee. Amazing, isn't it? No artist has ever been taught about the horizon in any other way than as a flat line with lines coming towards it from the perspective of the viewer. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that apparently, you know, part of the Renaissance was kind of really getting that, right? The artistic development to the point where they can actually incorporate perspective, because maybe this is it. Maybe it was a realization that they had. I take this with a pinch of salt, you know. And this is only what we're told, you know. Apparently, medieval art was a bit kind of didn't really include perspective, but then you know, later on they developed the art of adding perspective to their paintings, and of course that was revolutionary, and that's of course made it appear more lifelike. But we don't know how much has been destroyed or hidden away or whatever in all these, you know, meantimes. I'm somewhere got an itchy nose. I don't know why. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's right. What's your Setneg? Everyone is a flat earther, whether they know it or not. Yeah. Yeah. Ah. Oh, I'm sorry if I've missed a bit. Oh yeah, Post says a bit sus, always wanting to have a dog of that size on your lap all the time. Well, again, it's just for the cute factor, isn't it? You know, it's all. This is it. You know, that's one of the things I pointed out to Dave. You're talking about Dave McKeegan, yeah? It's like it's funny because the only way they can stay relevant is to talk about flat Earth. If they started talking about other stuff, like. They wouldn't have any relevance. Yeah, they even what's his name, Creaky, has admitted to this. He's like, well, when I want to talk about, try talking about politics or this and that, and his viewership drops. But if he talks about flat Earth, you know, then it comes up. So, you know, it's funny, but that's the thing. So Dave McKeegan came out with this video about and it's like I just told him, I said, you're just desperately trying to come up with content and saying there's globe Earth proof, because you've got fuck all else. You've got nothing. If you really wanted to just prove it, just measure it. Measure that curve. Yeah? Show us the difference between horizontal and curved level. Yeah? Yeah, but then to turn around and say, for example, curved level and horizontal level is all the same is idiotic, because then in the next breath they're talking about the precision that you can get from making measurements of this, that, and the other, and was okay. Well, where's the measurement of curvature? Yeah, and again, they're not understanding. They're just not understanding. You just simply say no one's ever measured curvature ever. They'll talk about Eratosthenes, and and again, that was for me when I started looking into it. It's like, okay, well, all right, let's see, how did they first? So I wanted to know. It's like, okay, how did they first prove the Earth was a globe? And of course you get Eratosthenes come up, and well, you immediately realise that, well, okay, this is a story of someone that might or might not have existed, and whatever is said about him now is just to fit a narrative. I mean, apparently he worked out the size of the sun or the distance of the sun by comparing it to Venus, and so, well, yeah, and you have to make assumptions either way. Yeah. And even if you work out the path that the sun is taking, and you create an equator, that doesn't mean that you're suddenly finding out the shape of the Earth is being a globe. So for me, I soon realised that, wow, this is the one thing people point to. Everyone points to Eratosthenes, and you've got pages and pages of talking about Eratosthenes, but it's like there's a word that I'll think of in a minute, but it's kind of arbitrary, where, well, it could be interpreted one way or the other. So you realise that the main thing that people use as their proof means fuck all, because they've just chosen to interpret it in a particular way. Bendy flight paths. The Jolly Man. How do two boats sailing over the curve both disappear over it from two opposing locations? Hollow Earth. FPV Angel Tumbleweeds equals globe rotation. We shouldn't have to help them, but there you go. Better than toilet proof. Ha. Sat next. I can work out the size of my wheelbarrow by the size of someone else's spatula. Yeah. That is, it's how ludicrous it is, man. Yeah, that's science. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fair shout to those guys that are just keeping this going and really getting to the crux of the issue, which is not, again, it's not about telling people that the Earth is this or it's that, or giving them an alternative cosmological model. Yeah, it's a really easy trap to fall into, and of course, I'm sure we've all been through it, where you want an alternative explanation, you know. But no, ultimately you have to get to that point where it's more of surrender and acceptance and that innocent perception. Zeus Scott, if it takes me an hour to dig a hole, how long to dig half a hole? Good one. Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to these globies, they want to tell you that it's curved, not straight. Well, so okay, well, where's the measurable proof? Where is the proof of concept? I would love to talk to these guys, and I really thought by now that they would produce it, but no, it just comes down to them clinging on to this very rigid idea, very rigid way of thinking. And it's a shame, as I was saying, you know, life's short, man. Yeah. 50, 60, 70, who cares what other people think? Who cares if you've believed something all your life? Who cares if you have some kind of identity? You know, who cares if you've made a fantastic career that other people are jealous of? Yeah? I mean, great. If you've done things that you really enjoyed, then great, that's life. Yeah, but if you haven't got to the point where you can accept, at the very least accept, that there's always more than one way of looking at things, and there's always things we're going to believe. I mean, it's a never-ending thing, you know. It's belief, discerning between knowledge and belief. Yeah, but if you can't carry on doing that throughout your life, you're just going to end up with this fixed, grumpy old man mindset. Yeah. Viagra eye drops. FPV. Yeah. So yeah, all of this is really about that, the kind of finding your place, I suppose, isn't it? The Jolly Man, weird. Redshift, blue shift, prove orbits, but the spectrum changes don't match the apogee and perigees of the objects. Yeah, they really are just, you know, very flaky ideas that, again, people will talk about. Oh, you know, it's funny because someone will just throw something at, like, oh, star parallax at you, and they've not researched it, or they'll say spherical excess, and you go, okay, go on then. What are you talking about? Go ahead, demonstrate this, as you know, and they can't. They're just literally throwing these things out there that they think, you know, just as well be someone throwing out pronouns, yeah, and saying you must call me this or that, you must call me them, because I expect you to see it from my way. I mean, yeah, when it comes to talking about redshift, I mean, again, if you just, I suppose it's funny, again, listening to these anti-flat earthers or hardcore globers, it's like they have massive difficulty flipping things around. It's like we've got the idea of a tiny earth, tiny ball earth, massive sun, when really you just got to flip it around. Big, expansive Earth beyond what we actually know. Small local sun, local stars. I mean, we're talking like, if I was to... Here's an aircraft. I mean, we're talking about, stuff going on at this kind of level, Some stars up here. Let's put some stars up here. Yeah. So if I'm standing here, tiny little me, really tiny down here. Yeah. I might be able to see a star over here. I'm not going to see a star all the way over. I'm not going to see the sun. Yeah? Because I've already got this. Let's say here's my field of view, but I've also got perspective coming into play. This is what I mean about perspective, yeah? Just can you see that at all? Yeah. So like we've got the widening field of view, but then we got perspective kicking in. Yeah? So out there in the distance is our focal point, it's our limit of our view, yeah? And we know that the surface is going to appear to rise up to our eye level, and the clouds are all going to appear to come down, and these stars are going to appear to come down. And of course the surface, well, the sky's transparent, isn't it? But the surface is all solid, yeah? So of course this is already up close to our eye level. The sky is transparent, yeah? So we can see the moon and the stars and everything, yeah? And the clouds. But we're talking about stuff that's not much higher than the clouds themselves going on. Yeah? So of course, if you're over here, a few thousand miles away from the sun and the stars, you're not going to see it. And it is going to be blocked by all this shit above, just above us. The haze, the dust, and just the fact that, a lot of people talk about refraction and things. I prefer to use the word diffraction, because it basically means things get broken up. The light gets kind of diffracted. Yeah, actually just like the split experiment. Yeah, it just kind of eventually just you're not. It's like receiving a signal, and we know that, for example, if you shot a microwave across the water, if this was water and you shot a microwave across it, it's going to struggle to reach that, because there's just stuff going on, vapor, temperature changes, fluctuations, yeah, that disturb the signal. So this thing of being higher to see further, again, is just such a straw man argument, yeah, because that's what happens on a flat Earth. We got less interference, less compression. So the horizon does extend as we gain height above the surface. That's exactly how it works. That's how perspective works on a level surface. It's got nothing to do with the Earth being curved at all. Yeah. But yeah, and this is something I'm going to put in the book and try and nail down the figures, because within this you can understand where the 23.4 degrees comes from. It's kind of, but again, it's not something that, it's just become a mathematical thing to create the geometry. It's not necessarily what's actually happening. I mean, can we really measure the degrees that for example, you could, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, there's this field of view, there's a focal point, and there's perspective. But can we really apply degrees, numbers of degrees and things to these what we're seeing visually? Not really, but we can kind of approximate, generalize in order to do it mathematically. And then you realize that, well, okay, the whole entire globe Earth is just based on the fact that a star will appear lower towards the horizon the further away we get from it. And so once you've got a measurement that takes you from that point to that point where you can't see the star anymore, you just carry on from there. You've got your initial building block, yeah? It's all based on perspective. It's all based on, so converting perspective into geometry, using certain angles, assigning them, and it would appear to work simply because of the actual local distance of the stars and the sun and the moon, whatever they are, going out of our view across a certain distance. Scott, your reflection is closer than you think. The Jolly Man, 186,000 MPS speed of light constant is the same as the sun's diameter. Oh, really? 1 AU? Oh, right, yeah, 1 AU. Yeah. Again, it's just, what a coincidence, eh? It's just them kind of, again, it's Copernicus simplified the Ptolemaic, or however you say it, model. Ptolemy's model. Yeah? Took the beauty out of it. Took the creative elements out of it. Took the intelligent design out of it and said, oh, it just happened. Yeah? Hi, Tony Dixon. Thanks for coming in, man. Yeah. So, yeah. That's, I suppose, the important point was really just to it's that going back, isn't it? Going back to the trying to regress. It's funny because people will spend thousands on therapy, and they're basically trying to. The whole point of any kind of therapy is to try and get to the root of the problem. What's the issue? What's making you depressed? What's making you stressed? What's making you angry? What's eating you up inside? What's bothering you? Yeah. So, or why would you? Why not it? Why am I vindictive? Why, this, that, and the other? Yeah. You can look at addictions as the same thing as well. Addictions are kind of maybe based on some kind of trauma. You're trying to replace something. You're trying to make it's all about, again, we talk about early on, we're talking about finding God, the God within, yeah? We're all trying to do that, I think. And when we're kids, we're very much attached to it. It's there. We're part of it. It's just, we're automatically connected with God, for want of a better word, yeah? But we become more and more detached and disconnected as we grow a lot of the time, unless we're nurtured in that direction, yeah? But then that's the thing. If we're taken away from that, then there's all these other things that will substitute that kind of just everything's all right kind of feeling that we had when we were kids. Because do you remember you might go hungry. There might have been times when your parents are poor and stuff and they didn't have any, they couldn't give you anything to eat. You might get hungry, but you'd get over it, and it wouldn't be like you go out and play and stuff like that, and then you might eat the first thing that's put in front of you. You still don't think about it too much. Yeah? Because you're still in the thralls of just living life. And so we end up kind of leaving that behind, but wanting to go back to it. Yeah. I think it can especially happen in your 40s. You kind of 40s, maybe 50s. I think I've seen it happen a lot in the 40s. When people talk about a midlife crisis, I think often that's what it is. They want to go back to that childhood time of innocence. They've had enough of the bloody, it's just like living in this crazy world, 9-to-5 job, all the bullshit, the TV, the politics. It's just like, it's just too much. I've been faking it all this time. I want to go back to that that time where it was carefree. I didn't have to do these responsibilities. I didn't have to worry about all this. I didn't have to, care about what these, all this, yeah? Oh, yet here we are. You came back. Well, here we are. The thing is, okay, I'm just going to tell you this once. I'm not going to argue with you. You say the sun diameter is 865,370 miles. Cool. You and I know that there is absolutely no way that you can prove that. But we also know that you could make it work mathematically in a model, but actually you can't, because no one's ever done a 2-scale model of the solar system. Yeah? Yeah, so, we all know these so-called facts, but we also know that no one arrived at these facts by actually making a measurement. And I've just spent the last 15, 20 minutes talking about perspective and stuff. And if that hasn't sunk in, I'm not going to argue about this aspect of angular size. That you can't know if you don't have an actual reference or a way to actually measure the distance. Yeah? That's it, Tony Dixon. Exactly it. That's all you got. And when that should be enough for a truth seeker. If you say, "Can you prove it?" and if you're a truth seeker and you're intellectually honest, you'll say, "Well, actually, I can't." And that's a belief, and that's part of a model, but I can't verify it, and no one ever has. Yeah. That's all it takes. It doesn't mean that you're giving up points to a flat earther. It just means that you're being intellectually honest. Yeah? And it's like anything. And yeah, again, would it stand up in a court of law? There's the accusation. He did this. I saw him taking beers into his room. Or I saw him taking a woman into his room, yeah? It's a third-hand account, yeah? That you hear from someone else. And you're just going to believe them, yeah? Oh, what's that? Jolly man, they used the orbital masses to create the size of Earth. They screwed up. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so yet here we are. Why don't you just demonstrate some intellectual honesty and just say, "You're right, I can't prove it. That's my belief." And leave it at that. Yeah? Don't come back with another this or that, or, don't jump off the topic. You've made the claim. Us lot are not claiming to know anything, but we're saying that it works equally well with a small local sun and a large expansive Earth like this. Yeah? And, as we've already said, navigation, flying, engineering, construction, everything, anything and everything that's done on and above the Earth relies on the Earth being a level plane. Yeah? There is absolutely nothing. And even if someone says surveying, That's bullshit. Because surveying is just, looking at land elevation. So then I would say, well, okay, can you tell me the difference between curvature and a difference in elevation? And they can't. No, there's no, it just short circuits, yeah? Can't do it. And it's only because, when you talk about geodetic surveying, that you're assuming that this long line here becomes a curve, so that you've got a center point, yeah? And so you'll say parallel lines diverge. It's like, well, do they? Do they diverge in reality or just in your imagination? In reality, parallel lines would be just as we see it. That's why we see the sun and the sky appear to converge, because they're actually parallel lines. The clouds going off into the distance, yeah, they're about the same height. There might be layers, but the ones that you can see at whatever level, there's usually going to be a whole row of them. Yeah, and they appear to touch the horizon. They're not doing that. They're not curving down. So that's the difference. Yet here we are. Or that's how truth seekers become flat earthers, is they simply ask, well, how do I know this? Do I know it or do I believe it? And then it becomes obvious with a bit of intellectual honesty. You just say, well, okay, yeah, I can see it as one of many possibilities, but I don't know all the possibilities. How can I know? How can any of us know? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's late. My goodness, it's nearly 4 a.m. I've got to get some shut eye. Yeah. I was dying to do this over the weekend, but I had a bit of a cold. So, thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, David Banner, for your super chat there. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah. Thanks for coming in, everyone. And we'll catch up very soon. Yeah. So, bye-bye from me for now. Have a good one.